A very good evening to everyone. Uh, and It's great to come live. Professor Roluapuya and myself, Professor Sharmani Banerjee, who have taught this course, Travel Studies in India, Interdisciplinary Perspectives and Approaches. And today we are here. We have come live to address your questions. So far, I hope the session is going great. You are enjoying the lectures that are already aired on YouTube, and you are timely attending and solving and submitting your weekly assignments. So far, we hope you have no questions and doubts. Some of you do have, and you have addressed those questions through the email we have, and we have duly replied to those queries. There were some queries. So today we are expecting some of our learners to come live. We are here for that 1 hour from now. Starting from now, we are here till 5 p.m. Yes, Lavinish, can you hear us? Pendiala Lavinish, can you unmute yourself? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Do you have a query? I think you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, please? And if there is any issue with your device, you could also type your question on the side in the chat. We can read and respond. Um, Even if there aren't specific queries, we encourage that the learners come up turn on their videos and introduce themselves and just briefly tell us why they took up this course, what they're finding interesting, and how we can improve the course. This can also be taken as an interactive session. So we encourage learners to join and simply tell us what you find. Yes, Vismaya, would you like to turn on your video and unmute yourself? You could just introduce yourself if there is no question as such. We consider this as an interactive session, one of those opportunities to directly talk to the instructors. Vismaya, Pendiana, yes, Vismaya, we could hear you briefly. Would you like to unmute and say something?
Here is network issue, so
Yes, yes, Vismaya.
network issue, so
Okay,
I
can you
can.
hear me smoothly? Can you hear me so far? No, Vismaya.
Hello, ma'am.
Are you
My
able to
name is
hear?
Vismaya. I'm currently studying BCA.
Okay, you are visible. Excellent, excellent. So, which part of the country are you from? Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm from Karnataka.
Right, right. Very welcome and good evening. So, so far, how do you find our course?
Very interesting, ma'am.
Okay. How are you scoring for your assignments?
I'm good now. Sometimes I get 80, sometimes 100.
Okay, very good. Very good. And how many weeks are covered so far?
It's interesting and it's also very informative. I'm interested in tribal and also I'm taking folk and minor arts also.
Okay. So, which institution are you affiliated with currently? What are you doing for your studies?
I'm in BCA. I completed my BCA degree. I'm interested in studying sociology and tribal, something like folk.
Okay, excellent. I think you had also put up a couple of queries on our discussion forum, addressing one of us or both of us. Because
Yes,
your name is familiar to me. Your name, you had asked some questions through email also, right?
yes, ma'am.
Right, right. And was your query answered? Were you satisfied? Was your query answered?
Yes, ma'am. But I asked why did not put the questions of assignments, and they answered like they will ask in exam.
Okay, what was your specific query? Would you like to repeat it? Yes.
So, since the portions are quite vast, even for one particular unit or section, so sometimes it is impossible to incorporate every aspect of it and bring it up in the assignment. So, but then uh, you have seen our response also that we will make sure that some of the questions that you have raised in terms of the topics will be addressed in the term exam.
Exactly. Your interim question paper is going to incorporate some more. It will, cover a greater scope.
Since we cover a lot of like case studies, examples, concepts, so sometimes it is impossible to ask questions from every section. So that makes us. I mean, there is also limitation.
There are limitations.
But we try to make sure that the we try to cover most of the possible sections or most of the sections to the maximum extent. But your query and your concern is it's well taken care of. It's well received.
And further, if you have any queries as you go along with this journey in the forthcoming session, weeks, if you have any queries, just don't hesitate to write an email. We will get back to you as soon as possible. Huh?
Thank you.
Okay, happy learning. And anyone else? Pendiana, you have already joined. Would you like to turn on your videos? It's also an interactive session since we missed the live classroom culture here. And it's a pan-Indian audience and even beyond that we have here. on our NPTEL platform, it's highly encouraged that we turn on our video and see each other actually. And if no queries, at least tell which institute we are affiliated with and what got us interested actually to take up this course, how you got to know about this course, and what you feel so far doing this course. So, other learners, we encourage you to at least unmute yourself and interact with us. We don't get such live sessions very often, so please make the best use of it. Okay.
Also, if your internet connectivity is not good, feel free to type your queries or any questions in the chat boxes.
You can write this in the chat box itself. Okay. Mute.
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, some in politics there are so much less representative of tribal society, right? Incorrect parent, but in government supports them, but as it we see on our day-to-day life, we did not see much effort from the government, right?
I mean, that's a very important question and a very timely observation. We both would agree. Um, I mean, from my end, I can say, and then Sir can continue with his observations. Um, Policies are up out there, but there is a lot of loophole in execution, in the true implementation on day-to-day level, right? And even the knowledge that these policies, these schemes exist, we don't think that everyone in the tribal area, especially more remote places have the knowledge of everything that is available on the rights, on the opportunities that have opened up. So sensitization is required in that event. And second, say further.
Vismaya, can you just come back? I get the first part of your point, but the second part of your point I did not exactly get. What is the question?
It's like there are so many government schemes for tribal people, but they harms them so much. Like housing, they you explain in Forest Act. They acquire the land. They did not provide them land or equivalent products to them survive in the locality. So it's really not good for them act their right people to tell the tribal people what are they doing wrong. Observe when you are telling land is important, what is water is important, forest is important. When you are telling, when I look at around Jenukorbas or sometimes in my state, we can understand there are so many violence against tribals till today.
So,
Scheme.
yeah. So, Vismaya, I think you to your query. Okay, if I get it correctly, the first part is on the issue of political representation, and the second part, has to do with issues pertaining to disposition from different natural resources. So, to start with the first one, I think it's a very important question, and for that, the Constitution does guarantee political representations of scheduled tribe communities by reserving several specific or several constituencies across India. So there are several constituencies only where scheduled tribe members can members can contest elections. In Northeast India, in several states of Northeast India, this reservation of constituencies for scheduled tribe members is quite successful, for which many tribal communities today political representation. But the issue is, I think, quite different in this part of the country, in the peninsular India. This also has to do with the historical and the larger politics in this part of the country, because one is that tribal communities are quite you know are quite spread out in terms of territories. You talk about Santals, around, you will see that they don't live in one particular state. So they are quite spread out in different states. So in most states, in peninsular India, you will see that tribes are not demographically dominant, for which sometimes they are politically underrepresented. But I think in some states like Gujarat and Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the political representation of tribes have improved. Like Jharkhand,
Jharkhand is a
that is widely known. But in terms of the larger political representations, at the level of the nation or national politics, you will see that tribal communities are largely underrepresented, and that applies to both that applies to Northeast India as well. It's also because if you look at the national political parties, you will see that tribal tribal communities are highly underrepresented at the top echelons of these political parties. You won't see a lot of members of the communities holding key positions within important national political parties, whether it is the Congress, the BJP, political parties. But when you look at the state, there are variations. It's not that every state does not have tribal representation. There are good representations in many states, like what ma'am is saying.
Just something that's peculiar. My own fieldwork is on the Santals, and the Santals are spread out over 3 states in eastern India, like we know Jharkhand, Odisha, and Bengal. And we see the trajectory of their development trajectories are very different in these three states. So the way the mainstream, what we call as the non-tribal mainstream politics, the way it has evolved over time also impacts the tribals' development, how their language, their culture develops, and how it exchanges and draws on the abutting culture. So the way the Santals have developed in Odisha are not very similar to the way they have developed in Bengal. So these intricacies, these smaller dynamics also need to be taken into consideration. Each state has its own story to provide. So tribal as a sweeping trajectory can never be grasped, I think, at the level of Indian subcontinent. Each state has developed, each state has its own polity, its own political, underpinnings, and its own developmental trajectories. So in terms of language, in terms of culture, maybe you are giving the example of Karnataka. The answer to the tribal development and the tribal disposition or lack of rights in Karnataka, what constituents they're facing, has got nothing to do with the regimes that Karnataka has experienced over the last, say, 50 years, 30 to 50 years. That would answer your question better. Each state also has its own, historical political trajectory that impacts the tribal culture, tribal art, aesthetics, language, practices, habits, habitat, everything, isn't it? So
Yes,
things
ma'am.
are, when you put things in a larger context, meaning is drawn from there. You cannot compare the tribals in Kerala from the tribals in Northeast or from tribals in Bengal or the tribals in Kashmir. They all are, they are having some local dynamics also. All these factors add up to what they are facing currently, right? Or what they have faced in the past, right? Governmental policies at the state level, the state government's policies, for example, that counts a lot. How much the state government is, considering the representation of the tribal population, or how much the state government is, boosting the tribal arts and culture. All these things matter. In some regime, they are totally repressed. At other regimes, they can open up and find a voice of their own. So all these things matter, right? And even within that regime, how many tribal leaders we see. Like in Jharkhand, it's a different case. Like sir was saying, it's a tribal state in its own right. The majority of the political leaders are from tribal background, but not in all states, right? So there they have to contest and they have to bring up their voice, the voice from their own community. I hope this answers your question, Ms. Maya. Sir and I
Yes, ma'am.
try to address it to our best capacity.
Understand. I'm taking the classes of folk and minor arts also. It's a Madhubani art system, and there's in those two are intellectual. Tribal tribal arts are very aesthetic, and it express their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to know that we do not consider them mainstream.
I mean, even the tribal themselves, to an extent, would not like to be considered as mainstream. Because when you, that's a very big question. Also, sir could answer it. I mean, from another perspective. But if I answer it in a very pointed fashion, sometimes it is also helpful for tribals, to my understanding, to keep their identity distinct when they refrain from this process of mainstreaming, because mainstreaming, in a very common, if I explain in a very plain words, mainstreaming is going to bulldoze their unique identity, their uniqueness. And that will be totally assimilated with the non-tribal culture and their knowledge system, their own, unique ethos, community ethos, all these things will disappear. You understand? The tribal knowledge system will somewhere face a backlash if that is totally merged with mainstream. So mainstreaming is not something that tribals themselves like, or they selectively like it. And very curiously, you will see that in tribal majority areas, there is a reverse tendency, which is called tribalization. It is happening a lot in Orissa. I have worked a little bit on wall arts, the Bhitti Chitra that we call. And in Odisha, the schools are taking the tribals' ideas. So what we call as mainstream people are taking the tribals' ideas and they are creating wall paintings in schools, drawing from tribals' knowledge. So tribals are actually influencing what we call as the so-called mainstream schooling and learning system. So, but sir can say more how this mainstreaming process impacts tribals.
Yes, Maya. So I think what we try to do in this course is also to challenge this idea of mainstream. Okay, because the if you try to tell me what is can we define what is the mainstream? It is very difficult to define what is the mainstream, right? And secondly, like what ma'am is saying, in many parts of India where tribes are majority, the tribal culture is the mainstream culture.
Yes.
If you go to Nagaland, tribal culture is the mainstream culture.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then there are significant variations in terms of what is considered as the mainstream. Are we talking about the mainstream in terms of the nation, or are we talking the mainstream in a more provincial manner? Okay.
It's the mainstream.
At the regional and the state level. Okay, so but then what essentially we're trying to do is that we're trying to debunk this idea of tribes is outside of the mainstream. Okay, so this is no longer a very helpful way of trying to understand and approach tribal communities. They're part of the mainstream and they are the mainstream, right? Just because they have a distinct culture and identity. All of us have distinct culture and identity and language, religion, but it does not mean that just because we have different identities we are not part of the mainstream. And their culture is very much mainstream. So we just have to shift our gaze and perspectives in when we try to understand and approach communities such as the tribes. So that this is this is how I look at it. So, but like I said, the larger things that we try to do through this course is to challenge this idea of tribes is outside of the mainstream. So we will say that tribes are part of the mainstream. They're the mainstream. Okay.
Present day we see in Mizoram they are fighting in their tribal community. We see in news tribal community they fight each other in a Mizoram.
Yes.
It's kind of really why they they did we did not understand their perspective why they are fighting. In Mizoram we seen few weeks or few months ago they're fighting each other community their community. I don't know how to explain now, but I read in newspaper they have in breakout mass violence in Mizoram with each other.
So Vismaya, I think you're talking about Manipur, not Mizoram. So therefore, this is one thing that we try to convey, that we should not approach tribal communities as one homogeneous unit. So they are also a community. There are issues, there are problems, the communities face, which is the same as what any other community will face. There are conflicts, there are issues, there are problems, and there are challenges. Okay, and for which sometimes just because they are tribe, it does not mean that all of them are living in complete harmony. It's not it. So there are intertribal conflicts. You will also see conflicts at the level of family. You will also see conflicts at the level of clans. You will see conflicts at the level of village. People are competing. Who owns this particular village? Where is the boundary of the village? Some conflicts does have bad consequence, very very negative consequence in terms of what you have mentioned. But so therefore so we should not. The larger issue is that we should not necessarily look at tribes as one homogeneous unit where solidarity extends across and beyond communities. Okay, so this is this is a very good example of trying to understand the complexities associated with tribal politics. Whether in the past also, if you look at the past, this is what is happening in Manipur. But if you look at the past also, there are a lot of intertribal competitions. in terms of one tribal community trying to dominate against the other tribal community?
I think in one of my, if I may, in one of my lectures, I've talked about the Bodo Santal conflict in Assam, which is very well. The Santals are the tea tribes. You know, the Santals during the colonial times, they had been taken there from Bengal and Odisha and Jharkhand or Bihar region to Assam to work in tea plantations. They were forcefully taken by the Britishers over there, fine. And there already the Bodo community, which are local Assamese tribal community, the tribal communities from Assam, they were already living. And the Santal tea tribe community in Assam, till a long time, I think they did not get the ST, the scheduled tribe status. Till today, they don't get the scheduled tribe status in Assam. So they don't get the benefits of the scheduled tribe. So their conflict with the local Bodos, now they are also the local, they have been living there for generations now. They have not come back to Bengal and Odisha. So they want the ST status, they don't get it. So the tea tribe Santal's conflict with Bodo is a continuous narrative. So many literature is available on that. Right? The minority Santals being violated by Bodos and vice versa. So that competition between tribes is very much available, very much so. Right? It doesn't look like a smooth narrative. Yes. Moving on to Shrikant. Shrikant, would you like to introduce yourself? In the meantime, Pendiala, if you have, if your internet is working, you're most welcome to turn on your video and introduce yourself. Shrikant, would you like to introduce yourself? We saw you for once, very briefly. Would you like to tell us more about yourself and what got you interested to our course? We are not audible. We are trying our best. We are unmuted. Can you hear us, Shrikant? Can you hear us, Shrikant? We saw you briefly and then Shrikant, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Google Shrikant, fourth year PhD from ISER Mohali, working under Dr. Debjalal Saha. Ma'am, currently I'm on my fieldwork. So my topic thesis title is Property Resources, Tribal Livelihood and Institution, a comparative study between Telangana and Andhra. So specifically focusing on Forest Rights Act 2006 implementation in both the states. So in this regard, ma'am, I am having certain queries. I just want your suggestions on that. So I'm focusing on why there are so many pendency cases with respect to this Forest Rights Act. There are so much pending claims.
Okay.
So I'm currently inquiring that why there is pending cases, pending claims and rejections. So one thing that I'm seeing is that there is one group called Guttikoya. So Guttikoya tribe is migrated from Chhattisgarh, that Bastar, Dantewada, Bijapur region. So now they have migrated into Telangana state. It's been almost 40 years.
Okay.
So the Telangana state is not recognizing them as a scheduled tribe. So based on this, state government is saying that we are not going to give them forest rights. Yeah, so there is some conundrum here. If I see the list of ST list from the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, At one place, it shows that even Guttikoya in Telangana can be considered as a scheduled tribe.
Okay.
So this migration, and there is also Naxalism. The problem of Naxalism has made them to migrate along with better livelihood activities in Telangana, to migrate to Telangana region. So when it comes to this implementation of FRA, this migration conflict due to Naxalism is not visible in the act. It's not explicit.
Okay.
And this discrepancy of recognizing the ST. I mean, if you cross the jurisdictional border, your status will change. So I just, confused whether can I still consider them as a tribes with respect to these common property resources, or should I have to, go through some other group? Because at the present, I have to do some purposive sampling I'm doing based on these pending claims and rejections.
I mean, sir can answer that better, but I will briefly try to answer your question. This is something very similar to what I was addressing to the previous learner. You were not online at that time, Shrikant. So,
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was late.
yeah. So basically, it's a very interesting topic you've taken up. It's a topic you are working in the field of sociology, right?
Ma'am, I have political science.
Political science, right? So the moot question, what I understand is that when one tribal people moves to another state, their status as ST becomes contested. They cannot claim all the rights and the basically the representational factors associated with a tribe when they move to another state. That is something also happening with the Santals. I was just explaining someone right now, the tea tribes from Assam, basically the Santals from Bengal and Odisha that were moved to Assam, sometimes forcefully by the Britishers, and there the local Bodo tribes would enjoy the ST status and the benefits associated with it, but not the Santal. So the Santal Bodo conflict in the northeastern part is very well known. I think you're talking about something very similar, where one tribe migrates to another state, but they are not recognized at par with the local tribes, and your query further is that whether you can consider this sample as part of your study, because
Yes.
their tribal status itself is contested, whereas you're working on tribes. I mean, my take, I would tell Sir could give you a better answer. I believe my take is that you can surely take them as human subjects in your study, as human samples, and you can basically reveal this loophole and this contentious area where a tribe is not so much tribe, or some tribe is more authentic tribe as compared to others, just because they change their geographical location. And like you said, you use the word conundrum. I really liked
Yes,
this. Becomes a riddle for them, whether to be or not to be a tribe. Yeah, I think this kind of a gray zone, which is neither black nor white, is something you can very well highlight in your work. That will make your work very unique and interesting. Not much contribution has been done, but sir could say more. Yes, Professor Priya.
Shrikant, I think on the issue of identification, I think yes, the state is important, but I think you are giving too much of emphasis on the state. Because not all tribal communities are officially recognized as scheduled tribes. So I think now, if you go to, as per the Constitution of India, there may be around 705 communities who are recognized as scheduled tribes. But it does not mean that this list is the exhaustive list, in the sense that all the communities who are identifying themselves as tribes are not necessarily granted scheduled tribe status. And secondly, I think specifically in the communities that you are studying, what you have to do is that I think you have to historicize. You have to bring in a little bit of historicization here in terms of why this is happening. So, for instance, much of the communities who are considered as scheduled tribes in post-colonial India are directly, cut and pasted, from what the colonial ethnographers have, put down. It's not in the census. So, for instance, and therefore there is this, administrative mess, which still, needs to be, resolved. Now, say a region that I know best is Northeast India. So, for a long period of time, they retain categories like any Kuki tribe, any Mizo tribe, and within that, there are a whole lot of lists. Maybe that can go to 30 to 50, and these 30 to 50 different tribes, can be, if you ask the community who are under any Kuki or any Mizo, there is a series of overlapping, and the tribes that are being recognized can be a clan also, or can or much more bigger than a tribe, for instance, right? So there is this administrative mess, there is this administrative anomaly, and like Professor Sarvani said, there are many tribal communities in India. The moment they move out, say for instance, a good example is the Adivasis of Assam. They are not granted scheduled tribe status. It's not whether it is the Santhal, the Raon, the Mundas, and all, right? But at the same time, in the northern part of India, in this area, like Uttarakhand, Himachal, and up in the north, you will see that even caste groups are identified as scheduled tribes. Again, it's not it. So therefore, I think one for a scholar, it's important to understand these complexities and the intricacies of classificatory regimes in India. I think that is the first thing to do. And for that, I think we need to historicize how we have come about, and why we're arriving at this stage. Okay, so that is one way of looking at it. Now, secondly, on the question of forest rights, so the implementation or the introduction of forest rights in India was never to grant or to grant or recognize the rights of tribal communities on forests. It was all about making these resources legible to the state so that it can be expropriated and appropriated. So in recent times, the sociologist Virginis Khaka has aptly described this as coercive development. It's not only development; it is a very coercive development. It's not it coerces people, it coerces resources. So I think yes, the Forest Rights Act, we have seen different different versions of it, several amendments also, and there are also a joint forest management this and that is happening. But I think the ultimate goal, as to why the colonial state has introduced this particular act, the motive has remained the same, which is to enable to open up forest resources for for its commodification and appropriation. I think that is the ultimate goal, and I don't think it has changed to this day. So therefore I think you will see a lot of these conflicts and contestations, and we have also done our records, I mean, in terms of granting legal titles to tribal communities in terms of their claims over forests, is not very impressive. Attempts were there, efforts were made, but it could not really translate when it comes to really granting or recognizing the rights of tribal communities over forests. Okay, so I'll put it in that way.
And I think you would incorporate these suggestions that you
Yes, yes, sir.
telling me, and you can make your introduction, the introductory chapter. You can historicize and show this entire trajectory and all these complexities, right?
Yes, ma'am. In my review of literature, I actually dealt with this historical, legislation during the British time and after independence. Then this Joint Forest Management Act, and then the UPA one government, how it brought this Forest Rights Act, and what were the promises. I mean, it was seen as a democratic decentralization, where Gram Sabha was given power to authenticate the claims. So all these I have done, but most of the literature, this Naxal area, how this violent conflict actually disturbed the implementation of FRA was not. I mean, so far in my search, I couldn't explicitly found. If there is any literature, can you suggest me on this conflict and this disturbance with the implementation of any acts?
Okay, do you have any book right now in your mind?
So, Srikant, I think you can look at Nandini Sundars.
Yes, ma'am. I actually interacted with Nandini ma'am in 2 years back. She gave me some suggestions on Chandra Lele's work, and her own work in the Bastar area. I've seen, but I couldn't really understood, with respect to this present, legal legislations.
Mm.
I mean, the present, the legal legislation gives a legal right. I mean, it's a right,
Mm.
right-based acts.
So, scholars like Alpasa, I don't know if you have read her work. Alpasa is also a good option. And I think there are a lot of interesting. I mean, I don't work on this forest, nor Professor Sarvani, but I think EPW has carried a lot of excellent commentaries on this particular subject. Okay, so I think if you browse through the pages of EPW, you will get a lot of commentaries, a lot of special articles, particularly forest rights. And, so and I think it's also one scholar who has done a good work, particularly in the eastern part of India, is Benji Carlson. So one of his book is Unruly Hills.
Sir, can you pardon?
Unruly Hills.
Unreleased.
Yeah. So it's a very fascinating account of forest ecology and mineral resource in the state of Meghalaya. And his first book was essentially on forests. I think it's contested belonging. It's on the Rabas of West Bengal. Okay, so I think that book is also quite effective. I mean, it will give you a lot of fascinating account. But like I said, and there are some scholars, like Walter Fernandez, have also look at it. Okay, so there are a lot of scholars. I mean, if you start, looking at EBW, I think you'll get more than what you need.
Sir, just from your our course in the last week, we were discussing on this MISO's informal institution called LAL as a leader of the group. So here also in my research, when I went to the village which is in the forest, they have their own leader, just like LAL. They have a leader called Poi or Patel. Those informal institutions are dominating this management or governance of this forest resources. So it was
Right.
very interesting. I was able to easily connect with the course in
Yeah.
that material.
Right. We are very happy to learn that.
Also, Dr. Devdulal Saha also, when I told him that I've joined this course, he was also very happy.
You should say hi to him.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
So,
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else that you wanted to ask?
No, sir.
So, do we have any other questions from other learners? We're going to be online for another 10 minutes or so, and then we are wrapping up the session. So, we are here for some 7-8 minutes more. Learners, if you have any further queries, even if not queries, like we are saying, if you want to share your experience so far with our course and any suggestions regarding how we can improve it when it reruns next time around, it's most welcome. Just let us know how we can improve some lectures, maybe edit something we have done so far, because learning is a mutual process, right? So, since we don't have any further queries, shall we wrap up this session then? All right, learners, thank you for joining. Thank you, Vismaya. And if you have any further queries, please drop an email. We will reply to your email at the earliest. Fine? And all the very best for your end exam. Fine?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.